So our next topic, staying in the world of cinematic universes.
Oh, okay.
Star Wars, and now the Lucasfilm anyway, or
Wars.
Disney Lucasfilm, whatever you want to call it now.
Star
They announced that
Wars.
they're going to be basically slowing down production of future Star Wars movies. So there's going to be more time between each. I don't know if episode is the right word. I guess we don't really know what Rian Johnson's trilogy is going to be like, if that's going to be episodes 10, 11, and 12, or if that's going to be like its own thing. But in any case, we're probably looking at now maybe like 3 to 4 years between each one of those, with maybe the occasional spin-off in the middle there, compared to the basically annual, because we had Solo this year. Episode 8 was before that. Episode 7, I guess there's 2 years. Oh no, but there was another. Was there not? Rogue One was between 7 and 8. So it's basically been annual since episode 7 came out. So yeah, they announced that they're going to be slowing down. I think that they're really starting to feel the backlash. Although, did you hear there was a rumor going around that like, oh, the backlash for Star Wars Episode 8 was much worse because like of like Russian bots were spreading all the like bad news about Episode 8.
That makes sure that the timing of it kind of backs it up, but I don't.
I think that's ridiculously wishful thinking.
Yeah, episode 8 was just a botchery. I mean, you even heard it with Jesus,
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill. I was
Yeah.
gonna say Bill Hamill for some reason. I was like, wait, no, that's not his first time. But yeah, I felt like with what we're seeing with the Star Wars movies, I think Rogue One was like the best product they put out so far. I felt like from back to front, like everything seemed like it made sense in a way. Just the writing and the acting and like the cinematics and all the things around it. It just felt like a more of a polished product than what they've been putting out. Episode 8 didn't seem polished. Seems like kind of like they might have winged it or something like that. And I know people enjoyed that movie, but I don't think you're gonna get the same satisfaction out of that, regardless. Too, what I thought was an interesting point, the guy, a political commentator that we like listening to, Ben Shapiro, was like, I had a good point on they shouldn't have done the Rey thing or whatever, not the Rey thing, but the Rey Finn, and like they shouldn't have picked off like 20 years later. They should have just did what they did with Solo and just recasted everyone and then went on from there.
Oh, you mean from like the end of episode 6?
Yeah.
I
think that might have been like a better decision because like those characters that we love, and I mean, yeah, people are like, oh, that's so like disrespectful or whatever you want to call it, or it's not like original. You know what I mean? That kind of feeling. It would be kind of weird, but I think that would have been like the best play for them to have, because you're introducing us with like new characters, and then you're having like these other characters come in and out, and I think that would have, like, in my head right now, like when I hear that, I'm like, well, that actually sounds like a decent idea. Because I personally didn't think Solo was as bad as what people thought it was, and the ratings and whatnot. I think they did a better job. I think that movie is better than 7 and 8 for me. I think when we did our top 10 list, I had that up above all of them besides Rogue One. I think I have Rogue One up pretty high because I just really enjoy that movie. But it just seems like we're not getting, they're not giving them the certain amount of time as well. I think episode 7 got the right amount of treatment, but going from 7 to 8, I think the visions were wrong. I think maybe Abrams should have stayed on for 8 or something like that. It just didn't seem right.
And now they're going back to Abrams for 9.
Yeah.
I think that this is in general a good idea because it has been a little bit of rushed production. I think like basically since episode 7, everything's been on a 2-year production cycle, which is somewhat quick. Which is it's not terrible, but it is somewhat quick, especially for something as important as Star Wars is. So I think I'll likely appreciate them taking the extra time.
Yeah, Rogue One got the green light like not too long after 7. So Rogue One had like a good amount of time to marinate, just like 7. But I think 8 and Solo probably didn't get the amount of time that they should have gotten. But like it doesn't make any sense why they didn't, though. You know what I mean? It's like these movies should not be rushed out. Like if I think that Disney is obviously looking at money, but I think the legacy of the movies are being tarnished by the way they are being released and kind of being put out there. I think similar to like The Hobbit, kind of in a way too. Like they have to get away from these timelines and more or less be able to put a product out that can stand. I think it's more important to stand the test of time than to make the money, because they're gonna make the money if they're gonna make even more money, I would say, if they do that.
Yeah. My mind totally went blank on what I was gonna say.
I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. Nope, I lost it.
Tacos. You're thinking about tacos.
I wish. Yeah. I guess to what you said about like them starting straight from episode 6, I think that what they ended up doing with 7 was the safest option, especially like plot wise, and like I think it's gonna be bigger. You kind of grab everyone's attention if, although I guess Luke's not really in that film, but like you bring like Luke, Leia, and Han back. I think that guarantees you more people showing up to the theater than it would be recasting everyone, I think. I remember what I was going to say now, because another thing that was announced recently about Star Wars was that they were giving Kathleen Kennedy, I believe if I remember correctly, it's a 3 or 4 year extension as the head of Lucasfilm. And what I was going to say to that was this was what was more worrying for me than them slowing down the pace. To me, is a recognition that they've made a couple of mistakes, and they're going to allow themselves the time to minimize the risks of making similar mistakes in the future. Like allowing themselves, say, like an extra year for every movie. Like they can make sure that they have a good plan for the film, that they can shoot everything that they want to shoot in a timely manner and not have any sort of rush to it. They have plenty of time for editing and testing's not the right word, but like screenings and stuff like that to like get a feel for how people's opinions of the film, stuff like that. What's more worrying to me is the renewal of Kathleen Kennedy's contract, because if you look at episode 7 with J.J. Abrams went off pretty smoothly. I don't really remember, I guess, too much of like the directing and producing of Rogue One, but episode 8, just like the switch from J.J. Abrams to Rian Johnson, and then Solo had a whole bunch of controversy where they basically like reshot that whole film in the last like 3 months, right? Because Ryan Howard, I forget who was supposed to.
Howard, sorry.
I forget who was supposed to.
I think it was a Marvel guy or something like that. That was like a Marvel director, and then he dropped or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I forget what it was. But he stepped away. They brought in Ron Howard, and Ron Howard had like 3 months to make a movie, basically. And I think, given the time frame that they had to work with that, I think they did a pretty good job. But Kathleen Kennedy is the one responsible, I think, most of the time, or like is the most responsible for all of that sort of chaos behind the scenes. Like, it's her job. She's basically like the Kevin Feige of Star Wars. That's her position, at least my knowledge of what she does anyway. And I think that Star Wars, since they rebooted it or like relaunched it, they've had a really hard time, I think, especially with the like Abrams, although I mean we obviously haven't seen episode 9 yet, but like they're lacking kind of the fluidity and continuity that you see in, for example, the Marvel universe, which is also owned by Disney. There's been a lot of chaos behind the scenes at Star Wars and Lucasfilm, and like Kathleen Kennedy is mostly responsible for that, and like everything that's gone wrong, and all of the, maybe it probably is just like a vocal minority that really didn't like episode 8. I feel like that it's a little bit more than that. I think there are a lot of not very vocal people that also didn't like episode 8. But to give her an extension is, in my opinion, like a stamp of approval on like what the last 6 years of Star Wars has been. And I personally don't like what the last 6 years of Star Wars has been. And so I was disappointed to see Kathleen Kennedy. Now, it's very possible that she, learns from the mistakes that have been made. But I also sometimes feel like she doesn't think mistakes have been made. And Ryan, especially in my opinion, Rian Johnson doesn't feel like any mistakes were made. And I know that that's like episode 8 is like his film, but like the two of them are responsible for a huge division in the Star Wars fan base.
Yeah, that's another thing. I think because I've talked to people that have directed stuff and like people like not I mean I'm not in the business or anything like that, but like I've taken classes and stuff, and I've had professors and whatnot, and like challenging opinions and stuff. But it seems like a lot of people in the industry kind of like have it like one way, like their way, and that's it. You know what I mean? So I think that's what it is. It's kind of like, in my eyes, I think it's kind of crazy in how they think that what they've done is good. And I get like it's like their take of it, but it's not a very good take. I don't know. I don't know what they can do. I think episode 8, 9 has to be really, really good. Is it gonna come out next year at all, or at the end of the year?
Yeah, it's December of 19.
Okay.
Is episode 9.
So we're gonna have to wait another whole year but I mean that's fine. They were probably already in production probably earlier this year for that movie.
They've already started.
Yeah. So they probably are almost done shooting, I would guess, and everything is about to be probably in post for a while because that takes a long time.
Possibly, yeah. I know we've talked about this before. I lack confidence that they can do anything with episode 9 that will, in my opinion, save them from how terrible episode 8 was. But you never know. I just hope that everything flows well, like transitioning back to J.J. Abrams. And yeah, I mean, obviously they're not going to stop making Star Wars movies. I don't think at this point. Not like they did before, where they just like where George Lucas kind of just walked away from it twice, really.
I have a problem with I mean you just look at 8, and I mean I have a couple sisters, or more than a couple sisters, but I had a couple sisters, and my stepdad would sit down and watch this with me, and they know like I'm like the one that knows like everything about all nerd culture and whatnot. I've never had a movie where all three of them were asking me so many freaking questions about what was going on, and like they didn't understand, and I had to explain it to them, and we had to rewatch some scenes. Like I've never had a movie, I don't think, in the past like ever, where they've had to ask me so many questions. I think Carly had to stop the movie like 3 times from when we watched it together. She was like, what just happened? Like I remember when Obi-Wan, like especially that was like a big one. She was like, where'd he go? I was like, I don't even know. I don't even know. He does. Yeah, I guess he's dead. I guess I don't know. He went to the Force. So
oh, you mean Luke?
No, Luke. Did I say?
Yeah, you said Obi-Wan.
Oh, sorry. My God. Sorry, Luke. That's what I meant. My bad. Sorry. Same thing with him. But like it was just like, Carly, I don't have an answer for you. Like there's a lot of just stuff that was like that, and that's like, I don't know if that's a good sign, or you know what I mean. It's not good to not be able to explain stuff to people, and like there's probably an explanation for that, but I don't think it's a good enough explanation.
Yeah. So anyway, let us know in the comments down below what you think of how you would rate your Star Wars experience thus far over the last 5 or 6 years. What you think of their decision to kind of slow down the pace of the production schedule anyway, and their decision to give Kathleen Kennedy an extension to her contract as head of Lucasfilm. So let us know what you guys think down below.
Yeah, I definitely want to see an Obi-Wan, an old Obi-Wan, and then
Ewan McGregor said that is not in the plans.
I know, but I still would want to see him
recently, which broke all of our hearts.
That role. I think he was like the only good thing in those prequels, and then a Dark Maul movie.
Nah.
Okay, the prequels were just all bad then.
No. I think that there's better. I personally think the prequels get a bad rap.
Well, yeah, they do, but I think Ewan McGregor was the best part of the prequels.
Oh
me.
Yeah, 100%.
And then Dark Maul, I wanted to see him, and I don't know how that Solo cameo was just like.
Spoilers for Solo.
Yeah, sorry.